Hello, everyone, and welcome to Friend Diagram. This is the podcast where two friends catch up and find common ground between their favorite media. I'm Remy.
I'm Kat, and today we will be discussing Sleepless in Seattle and Asteroid City. Warning, spoilers ahead.
Hey, Kat, how's it going?
Hi, Remy. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Long week, but good overall.
Yeah.
How was yours?
It was long. I've been working a lot, and things are going well at work, actually, so I'm feeling good about that. But it's just been a lot. But yeah, pretty decent.
Did you hear that we lost one of the greats this week?
No.
R.I.P. to Cormac McCarthy.
Oh, actually, so I didn't know that, but I did see that the bookstore that I like put up like a section of his books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know. I got hit with a wave of tweets on, I forget what day it was now, but the first tweet was just like a picture of the cover of Blood Meridian with no context. I was like, oh, that person's thinking about Blood Meridian. And then I like scrolled down and like the next 10 tweets were all like, wow, we lost Cormac. And I was like, oh no. He was 89 years old though. So
yeah,
he made it pretty far, which is awesome. So happy for him for that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And to be like actively writing and putting out books late into your 80s like that is wow.
I just read The Passenger, like, less than a year ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy. I think I read somewhere that he had been working on that for, like, decades, or at least a decade, and it was, like, gonna be one of his, like, big projects, so I'm glad that it got finished. Imagine having, like, a magnum opus that goes unfinished.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that news just slipped by me.
Yeah, it's just my corner of Twitter for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your algorithms are like, she needs this news.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, that was the big news of the week for me.
Did you get to do anything fun this weekend?
What did I do? Do you ever like feel like you have no idea what happened even just a day ago?
Yeah.
I did have a good weekend. I had to work late on Friday, which is why we're recording on a different day than normal. Mm-hmm. And on Saturday, I just hung out all day with Will because I was traveling last weekend and we're going to be traveling next weekend. And I was like, we should have at least one normal hangout day because Saturday is his only day off. So I was like, oh, I should hang out. And, yeah, we like walked around the park a bit and I showed him all the cool spots where I like walk around during my lunch breaks.
Oh.
And I showed him the green heron that hangs out. And how weird he looks. He's like a weird guy. This green heron. He does not look like a normal heron. They're like way more compact and strange.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what he is.
I mean, probably. If he looks
could
like
be
a
something
heron.
else weird. Well, he's hard to see from far away. I think he might be something different because this guy has much more white feathers than what I'm looking at on Google Images right now. And looks weirder. He's just a weird dude. I'll have to figure it out. I'll ask one of the birding people that are always around with their massive cameras and the huge lenses.
You gotta get me in with the birding community out there. That'll be fun.
Oh, they're here all the time.
Yeah.
They like move around in big packs.
I gotta join one of those packs.
Yeah. I'm sure you could just sidle up one day and be like, hey, what's going on?
Mm-hmm. Teach me about birds. I did join a bird club here, and then I never went to any meetings, and I got too scared.
Oh,
but I read their newsletters and just kind of creep on them. Mm-hmm. They do lots of field trips and stuff. I wish I had taken advantage of it, but
maybe
I got
one
nervous.
Day.
I was like, I'm such a baby birder. Like, I don't know anything.
Remember when we used to go to boxing club together?
Oh, man, boxing club.
That was so fun. I really miss that.
Me too.
I've been trying to look into, like, group fitness classes here like that, but it's just such a fucking pain to, like, get somewhere at a specific time and rely on the train. And, like, I don't know.
Yeah, you would have to find somewhere
pay a
like
bunch of
really
money.
close to you.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the places really close to me shut down during COVID because I was even like looking for yoga studios the other day and I'm in like a desert for them. And I asked my friend that used to live over here and she was like, oh yeah, a bunch of them are gone now. So
Interesting.
You would think they'd be everywhere in the city.
Yeah.
But there's like only a select handful on the west side and they're all, I don't know, like at least 30 blocks away.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird.
You got to go to the movies this weekend.
I did.
Nice.
Yeah. That's going to be what I talk about for my topic.
Woo! That's exciting. Yeah. I was really struggling to find a topic this week because I was just like feeling really burnt out and like not excited about anything, or I have a couple of books started where I'm like kind of in the middle of them and not fully sure if I like them. And so I was thinking and like editing our previous episode this week, and I was listening to you talk about the rewatchables. And I was like, you know what? Like that feels like something that I kind of need right now, is like a movie that I like and am just not thinking of. It's not like at the forefront of my mind, but like maybe if I like scroll through the rewatchables episodes, it'll like jog my memory of something that I want to cover. Yeah. And so I didn't have to scroll very far before I found Sleepless in Seattle. And I was like, oh, this, like, I remember watching this as a kid and really, really liking it. And so it was 5 a.m. on Friday when we normally record. And I was assuming we would record that evening. And I was like, I gotta find something. So I watched Sleepless in Seattle at 5 a.m.
Wow.
Which was a great experience. And yeah, I was kind of worried that I would revisit it and not like it as much, or just like kind of not think it's as stellar of a film as it is.
I worry about that too sometimes.
And yeah, upon revisiting it, still solid film, like still solid performances from Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, and it's got Rosie O'Donnell in it, and she's funny. She plays like the friend character to Meg Ryan's character. And yeah, I just thought it was really enjoyable.
Did you listen to the rewatchables episode?
I didn't. I only used it to figure out what I wanted to watch, but I do have every intention of listening to it. I just didn't get around to it this weekend. But if you haven't seen Sleepless in Seattle, it is a 1993 film that was written and directed by Nora Ephron, who is like a big name in the 90s rom-com scene. Huge. Emily Henry gets a lot of her inspiration from Nora Ephron films, which I think is really interesting. And I remember being a kid and like asking my mom to watch Sleepless in Seattle, and my mom and I watched like a lot of Tom Hanks movies growing up. She was like a big fan of Castaway and Turner and Hooch. And I'm trying to think of what else we watched a lot of. Nothing else comes to mind right now. Okay. But I watched Turner and Hooch a lot. That's like one of the movies that like made me cry the most as a kid.
Did you have it on VHS?
I did have it on VHS. Yeah.
That explains it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the plot of Sleepless in Seattle revolves around Sam, who is played by Tom Hanks, and his son, Jonah, who moved to Seattle after Sam loses his wife. And you kind of see Sam grieving the loss of his wife, and people are trying to and struggling to help him through this grief. But when someone loses a partner, like, it's really hard to know the right things to do and the right things to say and how to help someone through that. So you see people trying to give him business cards for support groups, and his sister's telling him, like, you'll meet someone new. And he's like, no, this doesn't happen twice. Like, you can't meet another person that you just have this like magic with. And so you see him go through this grieving process. They move to Seattle, and on Christmas Eve, his son Jonah calls into a radio station that has this like psychologist, like helpline type person. And the question that they're asking everyone is, what is your Christmas wish? And Jonah says that his Christmas wish is for his dad to find a new wife. Mm-hmm. And the psychologist is like, oh, can you put your dad on the phone? Because I want to help him and I want to talk to him. And as this is all going on, we're also seeing our secondary character, or like our second lead, who is in her car listening to this radio station. Her name's Annie. She's played by Meg Ryan. And she's just like flipping through radio stations and lands on this one and almost turns it off when she realizes that it's just like one of these like kind of almost predatory help shows where they're just like kind of taking advantage of people's problems to get listens.
Okay, so she's not a regular listener of the program.
No. And so she's like taken by this story and this kid on this radio station. And so she stays to listen. And she listens as Sam like gets on the phone, and there's this really great car scene where she's in her car listening to this and she's like responding to things that the host is saying, and he's saying the exact same thing at the exact same time. And so she's like, the host will say, I don't want to intrude on your boundaries or something. And she'll go, sure you don't. And he says, sure you don't at the same time. And she's like, whoa. And so she just feels like this connection with Sam over in Seattle. And
where is she?
She's in Baltimore. So she's like completely across the country from him. And another complication is that she just got engaged to a character played by Bill Pullman.
Oh my God, I was just going to say, is it my poor Bill Pullman?
Yeah, your poor Bill Pullman. His name is Walter, and he is a lovely boy.
So lovely.
He's allergic to everything. He's sneezing all the time. It's so disgusting. It's like
it's so unfair to Bill.
I know.
So unfair.
But he's lovely. And I love that in this film, it's not that like anything's wrong with this person. It's just that she starts considering whether or not there's like this spark and whether or not like she's fully fulfilled with this character, Walter. Not Bill Pullman, just this character, Walter.
I know. All valid questions.
And so she writes a letter. So like basically this radio show has a system where you can write a letter to the radio show and they'll forward it on to whoever the caller was. So she writes a letter to Sleepless in Seattle.
So they take your personal information?
It's predatory. It's like crazy. So he's getting all of these letters from all of these like desperate
they should
women.
Not let children call into this program.
They should not. Yes.
That should be illegal.
And so Tom Hanks's character starts getting all of these letters from all of these women who like want to sleep with him and grant this kid's Christmas wish. And so Annie is another one of those letters, but she is writing it and she suggests that they meet at the Empire State Building on Valentine's Day, a la Affair to Remember. Like, so she's like inspired by Affair to Remember. She's watching it while she's writing it. Her and Rosie O'Donnell are talking about this film. And so Jonah gets this letter and he reads it and he becomes convinced that Annie is the person that his dad needs to marry. Okay. And so a lot of shenanigans ensue. Children are wild and cunning.
I feel like Jonah's already done a lot so far.
Yeah.
He's very involved.
Yes. He's very concerned. But just kind of goes from there. They end up meeting and there's this like magical spark. And
how does Jonah get Tom Hanks to New York City?
Jonah becomes friends with a small girl named Jessica, who is insane. And her parents are travel agents. So she says like, you've got to get to New York. And so she buys him a ticket, like she steals her parents' travel agency stuff to get him a ticket, lies to say that he's like 12, but is short for his age and like doesn't need to fly accompanied, like so on and so forth. So he flies to New York on his own. He like runs away from home to meet Annie.
Oh, he goes on his own.
He goes on his own.
That is insane.
And then Tom Hanks is like freaked out. So he goes to New York.
Naturally.
And Annie's also there with Bill Pullman. And they're like registering things for their like
Annie
stuff. And they go to dinner. And she can see the Empire State Building from where they go to dinner. And she's like, oh, I've got to tell you something. Like, I don't think he's there, but like, this is what I've been up to.
Oh my God.
Bill Pullman's like, well, I don't want to be like someone that you're settling for. Like, go.
He's
like,
a wise man.
Yeah. And I like the way he handles it, where like, it's clear that like, this kind of sucks for him, but also like, he doesn't want her to like, be this unhappy and resentful. Like he has
obviously.
Yeah. So I like the way that it plays out. I think it's cute. And so they end up meeting and it's like this magical moment, and it kind of ends on that note where you don't really know where it goes from there, but it's all implied.
Do you find out how much trouble Jonah gets in?
Zero trouble.
Zero. Oh no. This is why he has behavioral issues.
I know. His dad just like runs up to him and hugs him, and it's sweet. It's a sweet moment because he was so nervous.
So he's being rewarded for misbehaving.
Yes, he is. Listen, when you're a single dad, sometimes you don't always make the right decisions. But yeah, so that's like the plot. And I really like the movie. It has some moments that like really stick out to me comedically and just like in terms of meaningfulness. I especially like at the beginning of the film when they are showing Sam coping with the death of his wife, and when he's on this radio show, he kind of has this short monologue where he gets asked, what are you going to do, by the host, and like where do you kind of go from here? And he says, well, I'm going to get out of bed every morning, breathe in and out all day long, and then after a while, I won't have to remind myself to get out of bed. And then after a while, I won't have to think about how I had it great for a little while. And I like the way that was written. I think that it kind of just depicts this, like, you just have to like break things down into their base parts and just get through every day until it's not so hard. And yeah, I think that Tom Hanks's performance in that scene is just like really good and tender. And he could have like gotten angry at his son for calling this radio show and like airing out his business on the radio, but
of course
he doesn't, and he understands that Jonah's like having a hard time and is worried about him. And so they like sit on the couch together, and Jonah like curls up in his lap, and it's really sweet. And it's like just this lovely, tender moment. And he's not angry. Like, does he want to be doing this? No. But like, he understands that his kid is having a hard time. And I think that's really nice. And there are lots of like tender moments between Jonah and his father throughout the film. There's this one scene where Annie actually has flown out to Seattle and is just like trying to interact with him, but things just keep happening. Like, she shows up at his house to like knock on the door. She's a journalist, so it's under the guise of journalism, of like, I'm writing a story about call-in talk shows and things like that. But it's low-grade stalking. And he has like just gotten on his little boat with his son. And so she like follows the boat, like going on the streets and like looking for this boat. And she sees them playing at the beach, and they play at the beach all day. And it's just like this really sweet scene, and she doesn't interrupt it. And then they just go home, and she doesn't end up interacting with him. And she just ends up getting back on her plane and never fully meeting this man.
Interesting.
Yeah. But then there's also Jonah has a bad dream one night, and his mother always used to comfort him and like sing him back to sleep when he had bad dreams. But there's like this really tender interaction between Sam and Jonah where Jonah says he thinks he's forgetting his mom because he's at like an age where he is eventually going to like forget a lot of details about his mom, and that scares him. And so Tom Hanks like starts describing all of these features about his late wife. And it's just really a sweet scene. It always makes me cry. But then there's lots of funny moments too. Like Tom Hanks tries to date this woman. And Jonah's like not having it. He's like, Annie all the way. You can't date this woman. She's the worst. She laughs like a hyena. And he's just like so anti this woman. It's very sweet. It's very funny. But leads to like these interesting conversations about like, I am just dating her. I'm not going to marry her necessarily. Like, we date people to get to know them. And it like has all these educational moments. And then, yeah, I guess there are just like a ton of great comedic moments throughout it. But there's also this like really dreamy, like kind of oldies music that it's all set to. So it's like Nat King Cole and Harry Connick Jr. and Louis Armstrong and Tammy Wynette. And so just like all of these like 1930s, 1940s musicians and kind of just like that energy to it, which I thought was a different approach, but I thought it added to the experience of watching the film. And yeah, it wasn't just like a kind of normal score. But yeah, I think that it's just a simple feel-good film that kind of deals with some heavier topics like parenting through grief and dealing with your own grief and kind of moving on from something that meant a lot to you and still does mean a lot to you. And I like that I feel like one of the take-home messages is like, yeah, you might be struggling with grieving somebody, but moving on doesn't necessarily mean that you no longer love and care about that person. It only means that this is like a new chapter. And so I think that that's just a nice theme to kind of see in this film.
Yeah, and I also like that there is the complementary story of like knowing that settling is not the right path for you, and like knowing when you're settling and knowing how to have the courage to avoid that type of inertia that sometimes people fall prey to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And also understanding that settling isn't fair to your partner either.
Right.
Like, that sucks for them. They don't want to be that person for you.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, just an entertaining, good rom-com.
I'm glad it got you out of your funk.
It did. It did. And I don't hate watching movies in the morning, so I might try to do that a bit more.
Yeah. Just throw on a movie anytime.
But yeah, you texted me your pick for the day. And I was like, I am starting to see some overlaps already.
I know.
I'm excited to hear your takes on Asteroid City and hear how you liked it.
Yeah, speaking of movies in the morning, my pick of this week is the new Wes Anderson film, Asteroid City, which is in limited release right now. Luckily, my main theater is running it, and they had like many matinee options to choose from. So I went with the 10 a.m.
Nice.
Which was perfectly timed for me and really enjoyable. And that was just this morning. So I'm still kind of processing things, but I was also having a similar experience to you lately where not a lot of stuff was really getting me excited. And I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about this week. I really hope Asteroid City is good because I like all my other leads are cold right now or like not finished, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was like, damn, I really hope this movie's good. And luckily for me, it was a really immersive experience and definitely had features that were different from what I expected just from watching the trailer. And so I'm excited to tell you what I loved about it in a spoiler-free way, or at least I'm going to like keep it to information you can glean from the trailer. 'Cause I know you're going to see it. And so I don't want to ruin anything for you. But luckily it's not really a type of film you can spoil so much, which is fun for me. So, like I said, this is a film directed by Wes Anderson. He co-wrote the film with Roman Coppola, and it stars Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, and Tom Hanks, along with many, many other Wes Anderson regulars, as well as a few newcomers, but the cast is huge, and it's a million people you know and love, so that's to be expected. And in a general sense, you can tell from the trailer that this tells the story of a small desert community in a tiny town called Asteroid City out in the American West. And there is a convention / small meeting in Asteroid City for amateur stargazers / teen inventors that invent tools and devices that can be applied to the study of space and or space exploration. And so these kids that are involved in this endeavor and their parents are in town for the convention. And we see them interacting in Asteroid City, and then the inciting event essentially at the end of the first act is that there is an extraterrestrial encounter. And so you watch the aftermath of that unfold. And our main character that we follow for the majority of the film is Augie, and he is a war photographer. He's played by Jason Schwartzman, and this film generally takes place around 1955, so mid-20th century America. And Augie Steenbeck, he is our main character, and he is the father of 4, and at the beginning of the film, we find out that his wife has passed away a number of weeks earlier, but he hasn't yet told his children. So part of his grieving process involves trying to find the right time to tell them, but never finding the right time yet. And so you can see, from that alone, he's kind of struggling with processing everything that's going on with the death of his wife. And his father-in-law is Tom Hanks. And Tom Hanks is you gotta tell these kids that their mom died. What's wrong with you? And he knows that. And so that's one of the initial tensions of the film, is knowing that Jason Schwartzman, Augie, has to tell this news to his kids. And you follow him for most of the film, but you also kind of check in with a lot of the other cast of characters that you meet along the way, especially the teens that are involved in this conference and their parents. And that's the main plot, essentially. Obviously other stuff happens, but that's the main setup. And something that was really unexpected and interesting to me, because I didn't know this was going to be part of the story based on the trailer, but this isn't really a spoiler. It's one of those types of stories that is a multi-tiered narrative that we talk about frequently. A lot of times we talk about books this way. But this film is technically a story that's framed as a play within a play, within a TV show, within the film that you're watching.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. And so there's many convolutions and crossovers and breaking of walls between different narrative frames. And it sounds a little overwhelming when you put it that way. I myself could not have told you the exact order of the Russian doll layers of narrative. Just after one viewing, I kind of looked at a couple of reviews to be how many layers was I looking at exactly? And everyone was it's a play within a play within a TV show within a movie. And I was okay. But what I really like about it is that you don't need to totally understand the rules of how everything works in order to appreciate and enjoy the movie. Like, these are all kind of ways to aid the storytelling rather than the focus of the plot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because the film, it gives like explicit attention to the structure of stories. So there's like breaks for not just like the 3 acts, but for like chunks of scenes within each act. It'll like put up a text on the screen that says like act 1, scenes 4 through 8 or something like that. And so it like draws your attention repeatedly to the structure of the story you're watching and where you are within the story. And so it's kind of like constantly reminding you that you're watching an invented narrative. But for me, that like didn't detract at all from still emotionally connecting with that narrative, even though there's like so much reveal of the artifice of storytelling in film. It almost like made it even more of an achievement that I felt so connected to the characters that were in the story and felt so connected to the emotional experiences that they were having, despite like the plain reveal of the artifice of storytelling and filmmaking. And on top of that, it moves pretty quickly, pace-wise, and you get like a lot of information. Like, there's so much to unpack from the dialogue that I was immediately like, wow, I need to watch this like 2 or 3 more times in order to fully appreciate everything that's happening right now. So at this point in time, I've only seen it once, but I can't wait to see it again because there's so much to unpack, like you could expect from a multi-tiered narrative. But yeah, I'm hoping to go again this week.
Nice.
But in terms of the themes and like the philosophy and the emotional impact of the movie, it really like makes no difference at all whether you can parse all of the different layers in a single viewing. Like I was saying, I don't think it detracts from your experience, but I can see how maybe that could be a turnoff for some people. But I liked it, and it certainly doesn't take away from the fact that it's very much a film about grief and love and art, expression, exploration, and identity, and uncertainty in the face of like huge existential questions and the acceptance of who you are and who your family members are. It's still tackling a big number of big themes and big ideas. And I love that type of ambition in a film. And so while it's like certainly a very Wes Anderson movie in that it has, you know, great camera movement as always and the like classic visual style that you'd expect from Wes Anderson, it has the sort of X factor, which is the thing that I actually have always loved most about Wes Anderson. I think that it kind of bothers me when people define him by his visual style alone. So like a lot of the stuff like on TikTok lately has like zeroed in on like his visual style or editing choices or stuff of that nature. And while I'm glad that people appreciate that because he is so good at it, I don't like when people make the argument that that is the only thing he's good at. And that is the only thing he brings to the table, because what I've always enjoyed about him ever since I like first started paying attention to who he was back in college is that I really think that the most interesting aspects of his films are like the strong philosophical threads that he pulls through all of his characters and his stories. And that is very much present in this film. And so for me, it was like a return to that feeling of like being really excited about the way Wes is presenting a philosophy through dialogue and character. And for me, that was like extremely satisfying. And I like identify with his characters coming to terms with their lives and their nature as individuals on an existential plane. I think that's a through line that a lot of his films have that I've always enjoyed. And I like that he explores really big ideas like loss and purpose and what we owe to each other. And he does it with just really interesting characters that can be quirky, but they're still like easy to connect to because they're very human and they're struggling with these like core human struggles. And so as a film, like I really liked Asteroid City because it felt like a return to that form that I've always enjoyed about Wes and his movies. And it was like easy to see a piece of myself in the story. And I think that's a really cool achievement to have that type of connection with characters, even when the structure of the story is so constrained, and even when the style and the visuals are so otherworldly in that, like, it's kind of visually a lot like stagecraft. Even despite all of that, it's emotionally evocative. And so I think that's really an accomplishment. Mm-hmm. I wanted to highlight my favorite scene without giving much away. So if you've seen the film, there's a scene that happens in Act 3 where Augie, Jason Schwartzman's character, he exits the play to take a break and like get some air out on a balcony. And he ends up having a conversation with another actor who's standing on the balcony opposite from him. And it was a really fascinating conversation. They end up, in text, just talking about a scene that was cut from the play. But when they describe the scene to each other, it's about so much more than that. Mm-hmm. And it's about love and loss. And it's this like incredibly emotionally resonant interaction between these two people, even though it's like about a fake play that never existed and roles that never existed. But the emotional truth of their discussion is so pure that it is just an incredible conversation to watch, and so striking and so emotionally resonant. It was the huge highlight of the film for me. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that. And so there's obviously like a lot of emotional richness and depth, but this is also really well balanced with humor as well. There was a lot of laughs in my theater, and I laughed several times. There's definitely like a diversity of moments where some people laughed and some didn't. And there's like a mix of humor for lots of different people's, tastes. Mm-hmm. But it was like really successful as a comedy as well, which is nice, mm-hmm. We always like a good balance between humor and hard-hitting emotion. Yeah. And so that was obviously very satisfying as well. So I think the final thing that I can talk about without giving too much away is that I will give a short rundown of my top 5 favorite characters. Mm-hmm. And then you can just like keep an eye out for them when you watch the film. So in loose order, number 5, I would put Augie Steenbeck. That's Jason Schwartzman's character. He's like my favorite Wes Anderson person of all time. So it's completely unsurprising that he would be on my fave characters list. I really enjoyed this character, and I was really happy he was given a lot of focus in the story. Mm-hmm. And so I was really happy with that. My 4th favorite character was Ricky Cho. He's played by Ethan Josh Lee. He's one of the teen inventors, but he's also a journalist. And I really loved all of his scenes relating to journalism and his intense journalistic integrity. I thought he was amazing, and I loved every piece of dialogue that he had. He was awesome. And then my top 3 favorite characters are all a 3-way tie. They're the 3 of Augie's daughters.
Uh-huh.
And their characters' names are Andromeda, Pandora, and Cassiopeia.
Mm-hmm.
And they're played by Ella Gracie and Willem Ferris. And they fucking rule. They are the coolest kids I've seen on film. And I felt like I really related to their operating energy and philosophy. Mm-hmm. This is like a small anecdote that happens very early on in the film, but it really illustrated why I instantly liked them. Their family, they go into this diner to get a meal, mm-hmm. and the waitress asks the 3 girls what they want to drink. They're like, oh, what can I get you 3 princesses to drink? And all 3 of them were like, we're not princesses. And one is like, I'm a vampire. And the other one is like, I'm a mummy. And I'm in Egypt and my head was chopped off, and all this weird shit. Uh-huh. And I forget what the other one said when she objected, because there's overlapping dialogue. But their refutation of being princesses mm-hmm. is the best. And I loved it. And it's very much my type of kid energy. Mm-hmm. And so I really enjoyed them. They get up to a lot of great stuff throughout the film, and I enjoyed every second they were on screen. They were very cool. And yeah, that's awesome. So I have a couple other small highlights that we can get into eventually once you see the film, hopefully. Mm-hmm. But I did want to give a shout out to Augie's still photography in the film. Mm-hmm. I said, he's a photographer by trade, and they show some of his photography in the film, and he does a really good job. He's a great photographer. I love his photos. And yeah, there were a couple reviews that I read after I got out of the film, and I was like, I need someone to corroborate what I just witnessed. Mm-hmm. And so I really enjoyed Bilge Ebiri's review from Vulture. And I also really enjoyed David Ehrlich's review over on IndieWire. They both seemed to enjoy the film immensely, and also had the same favorite scene as me. And I think we all enjoyed it in similar ways. Nice. But yeah, I just loved it. It was such a satisfying exploration of the relationship between pain and love. And it's just so many themes. Kat, I can't wait to watch it again and unpack it in more detail after you've seen it.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah, I think I'm planning to go see it next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
My mom will be out, so I think that'll be a fun thing to do while she's out.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good for all ages. There was a full family sitting in front of me in the theater, and they all seemed to be having a great time.
Oh, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, did I tell you what she said about the Royal Tenenbaums?
Who, your mom?
Mm-hmm.
No, what'd she say?
I had mentioned to her that I really liked it, and she was like, oh yeah, I remember watching that movie when it came out. It was weird, but I liked it. I was yeah. I feel like that's a lot of Wes Anderson's movies. They're weird, but they're good.
Yeah, this one is extra layers of weird because of the mm-hmm. heavy framing elements. But like I said, I think it really works. And as long as you don't get too caught up in trying to parse those layers at the expense of keeping up with the emotional beats, then I think you'll be fine.
I'm excited. I feel like this is just different than what I expected from a Wes Anderson film without even seeing it. Specifically in the sense that there is an extraterrestrial. And I'm gonna be mad if the extraterrestrial's fake and in a play. I want it to be a real extraterrestrial.
I see.
I want it to be E.T. vibing out.
I think you're gonna like it either way.
Yeah, I'm excited. I need to buy my ticket.
Yeah.
Before they all get snapped up.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have some heavy competition, I'm sure.
Gotta get my ticket. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really good. I'm glad that you liked it. I thought you would, but I was hoping I would get to hear your takes on it before I went and saw it. So
yeah,
I'm glad it was in limited release for you.
Yeah, I liked it more than I was expecting, which is really cool. And it was just really captivating in a strange way. Like, when I left the theater, like, I had been so engaged by the film that I, like, left the theater and was walking down the sidewalk, and I was like, okay, I'm in reality now. Like, these are real people. I have to pay attention. Like, I was like, I'm not in, like, a fake story anymore where I'm just watching characters in a film. Like, I had to re-engage with reality afterwards. Like, that's how deeply focused I was in the film, which, I mean, that's great to be transported like that. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what you think. I can't wait to talk to you about the balcony scene and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, this definitely sounds like an update episode.
Yeah.
A spoiler update will be coming.
Have you finished your Wes Anderson 101? Or is there one more film left?
There's one more film, and I missed last week's film because I had a hellish day on Tuesday. So
that sucks. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So you missed Moonrise Kingdom?
I did miss Moonrise Kingdom. I was sad about it. But I've already seen that one.
Right. Yeah. You know what I really love about Moonrise Kingdom? Bruce Willis's character. He does a great job, and I love his character.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. Like I mentioned, I haven't seen it in many years, but almost 10 years probably, because it was a 2012 film, and I watched it shortly after it came out. So
yeah,
wow, that was a decade ago. But yeah, I do love Bruce Willis just in general. So yeah, and it's streaming on Amazon, so I've been meaning to catch up on it and watch it,
nice.
But just didn't get around to it.
Do you think you'll go to the final film?
Yeah, I will try.
Is that Grand Budapest?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm excited to see that one in the theater because I didn't watch that until starting grad school, actually.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
I want to hear what the speaker guy thinks about Asteroid City.
Yeah.
You should write him an email. Be like, hey, what do you think? He
can be on our update.
Oh my god, you should invite him.
Okay.
Let's do it. Hell yeah. I'd be so down for that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Talking with a Wes expert about, like, Wes's most interesting and complex and layered film. That'd be really fun.
Cool. Yeah, I think he would be down to do something like that. I think he's got his own podcast that he does, potentially.
Ooh, I should see if he has an Asteroid City app.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Are we ready to do our friend diagram?
I'm ready if you are.
Yeah, what do these films have in common?
Tom Hanks is there.
Oh, Tom Hanks, yes.
I didn't really touch on him, except when I explained he's Augie's father-in-law, but he did a really good job. I really liked his character as well. He just missed my top 5 characters. I found him quite enjoyable.
Cool. Tom Hanks is so freaking cool. I love him.
You should tell your mom he's in Asteroid City.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think she would enjoy watching it. Yeah, and we can always play skee ball if we go to a film scene and go over and play some skee ball. Love that.
Skee ball.
Yeah. I mean, they have similar themes of, like, grief and love. We both touched on that aspect of things. And
yeah, I didn't even get into, like, another part of the central plot, which is Augie and Scarlett Johansson's character, like, having a burgeoning romance.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely about, like, a widower who's a father who is also, like, trying to process their grief and also eventually move on romantically.
Yeah.
So all of those are present in both.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked how that was portrayed in the trailer. That, like, made me intrigued about watching the film. I think that they did a really good job on that trailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Props to whoever put that together. Very good. 10 out of 10. Oh, and I saw that Maya Hawke is in it, and I'm excited to see her.
Dude, everyone's in it. There's so many people.
Yeah. She was like one of my favorite people in Stranger Things. And I was like, I'm really excited to see what she does from here on.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm excited to see her performance in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with those themes, there comes like this emotionally evocative nature to both of the films. I mean, in Sleepless in Seattle, there are definitely multiple times where it like hits you, and like I'm a crier. I cry at pretty much every film that wants me to cry at it. So, but I like that, and it feels cathartic, and you don't leave Sleepless in Seattle feeling bad by any means. You don't feel like sad when you leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Another big overlap. I don't think I brought this through in my description, but one thing they definitely had in common was the machinations of precocious children. It sounds like Jonah did like a lot of scheming, and the precocious teens in this movie do a lot of like highly effective scheming as well.
Love that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that going on too.
Do they get in trouble or do they get rewarded?
Oh, good question. Let me think about that. What is the ultimate consequence? See, that's the thing. It's like the like plot doesn't matter that much because like all of the real things that matter are like the relationships. And so I don't even remember if they get in trouble. There's definitely like threats of getting in trouble from the US military and some such. But
nice.
Yeah, because of course the military's there if aliens are involved. Yeah. I mean, they're just doing their thing no matter what.
I love that.
Yeah.
That sounds super entertaining.
They cannot be deterred. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. You mentioned as well there being this like comedic element to the film, and that's something that in Wes Anderson's films in general that I've seen, I find that he balances just really well the comedic and dramatic aspects of his films. And I think that that's also a strength in Sleepless in Seattle. Obviously, Sleepless in Seattle is meant to be kind of this rom-com type film, and so it's kind of meant to be a funny film. But I do think that the comedy holds up, at least for me. It's a very like 90s, almost sitcom-y type of comedy. It's like different than I think we see in films today, but still high quality comedy in there. So
yeah, that was another thing I like thought of while I was saying it and then didn't write it down. And I was like, I hope Kat caught that one because this is definitely an overlap, but I couldn't remember it. So I'm glad you remembered. Yeah, big time. Really good balance of humor and like heavier topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that's one of the best ways to work through grief is just laughing with your friends.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it helps you like process the important things that a movie's trying to say when you're not like crying through an entire movie or you're like fatigued by the dramatic elements, if that makes sense. So you're more able to understand the message. So as long as the comedy's not too prominent, you're still able to like get something meaningful out of it, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. That's all I had. Do you have any other ones?
No, those are all the overlaps I had.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really excited to go see that. That will be premiering the day that this episode comes out for general release. So if you're listening to this, go check out Asteroid City in a theater near you. Support local cinemas. We love them and we want them forever.
Yeah, and let us know what you think at frienddiagrampod@gmail.com. We're really curious what you guys think of the film. Do you think it's one of Wes's best? what's your opinion?
Yeah. And if you're interested in the reviews that Remy mentioned, I will have those linked in the show notes. So go check those out in the episode notes. And yeah. If you're interested in watching Sleepless in Seattle, it's streaming on Netflix. So
good to know.
Go check that out. If you want to have the cat experience, you can watch it at 5 a.m. It's a good 5 a.m. pre-work cry movie. So fit in your cry early.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh boy. We're not broken people. Thanks for joining us this week on Friend Diagram. Thank you to Tyler Seek for the creation of our intro and outro music. Did you take any of our recommendations? Have any thoughts on the show? Let us know at frienddiagrampod@gmail.com, and we might read your email on a future episode. If you can, please take a moment to rate and review the show on your podcast app of choice, and we'll see you back here, same place next week. Bye for now.